Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new episode of the Fintech Hunting Podcast. We have a very special guest for you today. He's an industry thought leader, a tech innovator. He's a sales expert and mentor. We couldn't be more excited to welcome Dan Zuch, former executive who has now pivoted to higher education. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michael. Good to be here.
Well, it is great to have you. Before we get into higher education and mentoring and all that, let's first start with, you've got a wonderful background. You have a ton of sales expertise, a lot of financial services expertise. Give our listeners a little bit of that background before we dive into everything else.
Sure. I started selling technology before there were phones, before there were laptops. And over multiple decades, I've been very fortunate to work for great companies, big and small, and really learn sales process, strategy, and tactics that work. And over the years, I've been able to grow my career within that context and work for great companies. For example, Accelerate, who you know well, and is in the mortgage tech industry, great company. And after working for a lot of great companies and understanding the value of mentors, I had the opportunity to join the faculties at University of Denver and Metro State University in Denver and start teaching and mentoring what I've learned over the years.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to get back to that mentoring in a second, but talk to me. We talked briefly about financial services, your background. Why is understanding sales, the process, the methodology, and having a professional approach to it so important in financial services and really in all sales?
That's a very good question. Methodology and process are important because it is the how-to map towards success in a deal. If you're not following a process, in fact, you are winging it. And you could be uber talented, but winging it is more trial and error, where a process is a proven set of steps and tactics that heighten the odds of winning.
Well, I love it, and I think that is so critical because there are some uber talented people who really just wing it. And when you start saying, well, let's go through the pipeline, where is it at this stage? They're kind of like, well, I don't know, and they kind of give you a gut feeling. As a sales leader, I know as a sales leader, it's really hard to forecast off of people's gut feeling.
It is, and it's a disservice to the executives and to the boards to provide a gut feeling forecast because it increases the odds of missing it, and people are accountable for that. But especially in mortgage, where I spent much of my time most recently, there are so many competitors in any given zip code. And these brokers, and the climates come and go, right? This is a tough one right now. So the ability to execute the sales process acutely and expertly is more important than ever.
I love it, and I'm a big proponent of it. And there's a lot of great sales methodologies out there, whether you want to go Miller-Hyman or use some of the other ones. But I think having that methodology creates consistency and transparency across all sales reps. And you start then eliminating Jim, he's got a gut feel this way, and Joe's got a gut feel that way, and Mary sees things a little bit differently. If you have a proven methodology, everyone's tracking and speaking the same language, and it gives much more not only consistency, but predictability.
Including syncing with marketing, because a true sales process starts with a suspect converting to a lead, to an opportunity, to a close, and then reducing churn and upselling and retaining. So all of it is a process. And following it eliminates silos between customer care, sales, marketing.
Oh, so true, and I'm glad you brought marketing. That's near and dear to my heart. I handle a lot of the areas in marketing, really so I agree with you. Add that suspect to that, start getting the brand awareness, and then move it down that sales funnel. All right, so you've been doing this in financial services. You've been very successful. You've helped a number of companies. Tell me about why you transitioned into the academic and the higher education realm.
Because making an impact on students' lives is really gratifying. So when I was, my first job, I was 21, right out of University of Wisconsin, and I was selling computer systems against IBM. And I had to really learn about how to sell against a behemoth like them. And I had a very good mentor who went on to be a very high-level executive at Cisco, who taught me about the core elements of persuasion, especially as it pertains to self-talk, and how to provide differentiated messaging. So I learned about tools, about methods at the age of 21. That had a real impact on me. Years later, no longer even near 21, I want to be able to help motivated students that are about to launch burgeoning careers by giving them a competitive advantage even before they get into an interview. And that just feels good.
Well, and I couldn't agree more. I've been an executive mentor for Xavier University and their School of Business for over 18 years. I find many times I get more back from it than probably what I shared with the students. The insights, how they communicate, the different ways now and the different distribution channels, but it all comes back to adding value, making a difference in somebody's life, and it can be extremely rewarding. I was only doing it as a mentor. I still do it as a mentor, but that's part-time. That's on my schedule. That's on their schedule. Tell me what it's like really being able to throw yourself into higher education and really getting to work with these students on a much more intimate level.
So what it's like on a daily basis is getting very specific on how they progress with whatever it is they're trying to advance. So as I work with seniors, especially those that are getting a sales major, minor, or certificate, I'm having very pragmatic discussions with actually how to find a job, a real process called down and to the right, and then how to execute within each of the stages of that process and how to differentiate themselves against other candidates, which leads me something pertinent to this discussion that is enormously exciting, that is relatively new now in higher education, and really relevant to the companies that view your podcast, and that is the evolution of interscholastic competitive sales teams. So, for whatever reason, in the thousands of interviews that I have conducted as an executive in sales, not one single time has anyone ever said, I am part of the Metro State Denver competitive sales team, and I have competed in 20 competitions, including the NCAA championships. If they said that, right to the second round, automatically.
Right.
And so University of Denver has a team, Metro State has a team. I'm working with both teams. I'm helping coach Metro State, and now I'm helping build DU. And Michael, that really arms these students with the ability to succeed in their job search and beyond, because those are hard. And they learn a lot of life skills, how to travel, how to pack, how to dress, how to conduct yourselves, right? And we're not competing against Duke and Penn. We're competing against Xavier, Baylor, Toledo University, where students are really scrappy, right? They're typically not from privileged families. They have to earn their way through college and earn their way into the workforce. And so you asked me about my daily life and what it's like. Getting involved with those teams is just a pleasure and inspiring.
Well, and I think that competition is so critical. I have a daughter who in high school did competitive speech and debate, and her expertise was impromptu. She would walk into a room, they would give her a topic, she would have a certain number of minutes, she would have to make 3 valid points, and you would have to end on time or you lost points. And the schooling that you get from that and that skill set is amazing. She ended up winning the state 3 years in a row. And what is so critical, though, is that gave her the foundation for whether you're in a job interview, whether you're out in the real world and you have to be able to differentiate your value or stand up for your beliefs. She had that confidence because of that competition to go out there and exude those traits. And like you said, in a lot of schools, they don't offer programs. They've never offered programs like this. And you get out there and you have a marketing degree, you have a business degree, and they're like, hey, gain some product knowledge and good luck, go out there and sell. Yes. And you're at a huge competitive disadvantage.
Well, good for your daughter, good as a father, but I am sure that that experience has stayed with her for the rest of her career and has really served her well.
Absolutely. And she uses those skills in everything she's doing because, again, it's that competitive nature. It's a systematic approach, right? She knew how to walk into the room. She knew how she had to dress. And like, I love what you talked about is these teams, when they come to you and say, hey, I've been in 20 tournaments, 30 tournaments, 40 tournaments. I've competed against this, that. This is what I've learned. Instantly, they're already elevating themselves to a whole nother level. And when we talk and go back to mortgage and technology and fintech, it is critical. If I'm a vendor listening to this, I've got to continue to get salespeople and get that next generation of salespeople that can go in there, step in, and do a great job. And to me, this is a great way to start pre-qualifying people who are going to really excel in this profession.
I completely agree. To me, one of the real stars of mortgage and mortgage tech in general is Sue Woodard, who obviously you know. One of the reasons I'm a big...
She's been on the show numerous times.
Yes. And the reason is because she's so compelling. And so the reason I bring her up is because her communication skills are so outstanding that she inspires others. And that's kind of the model we'd like to see these students morph into. Somebody as confident and clear and compelling as somebody like Sue.
That is so true. And I think I always use Sue as an example of someone who knows how to do social media right. What I love about how she does it is the fact that even though she's the one on the camera and she gets a lot of exposure and everything else, it's rarely ever about her. It's about her client. It's about how she's adding value. It's what she's doing at Stratmore, and it's a new research study. She's constantly out there, but it's always about adding value to other people. And that's, I think, how you really stand out. Talk to me a little bit more about how many students are involved in programs like this. How many competitions do they go to throughout the year? And then we'll end with a few ways that how do employers in the mortgage industry find out and connect with a lot of these type of students?
That is a great question. So there are approaching 200 colleges and universities now that have created sales curriculum. And that curriculum can span a major, a minor, it can dovetail into a marketing major, or it can be a certificate. And these programs often have, but not always have, competitive sales teams. When they do have successful programs, or part of being a successful program, is gaining sponsors, corporations that will donate and participate in the mentoring and training and be part of the teaching, part of the curriculum, and then sponsoring some of these contests. And so if I am looking to hire or interview or just learn more about these competitions, first, people can just find me on LinkedIn, right? Or just Dan at salesimpactnow.com and go ahead and email me. That's fine as well. Or they can look up PSE, which is Pi Sigma Epsilon. So PSE is a national college fraternity that is only future sales professionals. And they have some of the best tournaments. So this is not a social fraternity with a fraternity house and there's, initiation. These are serious juniors and seniors that want to participate in these competitions and launch really great sales careers. And they also have serious sponsors. So those are some ways.
I love it. And Dan, you and I could keep talking about this subject. I think it's awesome that you've made that pivot. You're helping out and you're adding value to students each and every day. What's one last thing you want to leave us with, especially as we talk mortgage technology? You know, it's some turbulent times. What's the impact that sales can have, and what's the final message you want to leave with us today?
My final message really is, don't be afraid to bet on a recent graduate that has gone through the sales curriculum and is battle tested from these competitions. Let's be honest. They're inexpensive, they're moldable, they're motivated, and they're not stuck in habits. And so that's my message. And that pertains to all of the context that we've established on this call about the value of methodology and process and differentiation and the individuals we talked about. Mold one of these kids into a star.
I love it. Dan, thank you so much for being a guest on this episode of the Fintech Hunting Podcast.
Always good to see you. Thank you.